I can finally say that we're ending on a high. Thank goodness for that. Oh my word. I've been looking forward to this movie for a very, very, very long time. I first heard about it about a year ago. It was released in America around mid-October time. It's been a long time waiting for it, and my word, the wait is truly, truly worth it. The story is that John Wick, played by Keanu Reeves, is an ex-mob hitman, and one day he is minding his own business, going about his everyday life, when a bunch of nasty, horrible thugs start threatening him. They start to try and buy his car off him. He politely says no. They become vulgar and nasty towards him. Then later that night, the nasty street thugs break into his house. They smash it up, they steal his car, and they kill his dog. So John Wick then goes off on a violent revenge spree because they killed his dog. The plot, when it's said out loud, makes it sound stupid. It makes it sound silly. It makes it sound like some kind of wannabe grindhouse movie, but it really, really, really isn't. In the context of action movie motivations, it's usually something like, in the Liam Neeson movies, "You stole my daughter, now you must pay." This is somewhat slightly different, and people have been going, "Ha! They kill his dog. Oh, they're really running out of ideas." Harumph. When that really, really isn't the case. I think this movie is fantastic. This is a debut directorial feature from the directors Chad Stahelski and David Leitch. They, previously to this, were stuntmen. They've never directed a movie before. This is their debut directing feature, and it is fantastic from start to finish. It is superb. It is truly superb. It is great to see Keanu Reeves back doing movies after a weird period of absence. It's good to see him in a movie where he actually acts in. For the past few years, people have been being very nasty and horrible to Keanu Reeves, saying, "Oh, he can't act, he's really wooden, he has no emotion." If you've seen any of Keanu Reeves' earlier movies, you know he can act. You know he's got emotion. It just so happens that he's been in such terrible movies recently that he hasn't had anything to play with. Here he does. He plays the very tortured, very distant John Wick in a very believable and very honest way. The plot, once again, whilst it may seem almost a Roger Corman grindhouse B-movie-esque thing, at the heart of it has real kick to it, has real passion. There's a reason why his dog getting killed off is such a massive thing to him, more than it just being they've killed his dog. I won't give that away because it's part of the story, but it feels logical. It feels as though this character actually has a motivation, which is something that feels strange to say, that I'm being celebratory to a movie that has characters with motivation, but so many movies recently have had no motivation to them. The past two movies I've just reviewed have had no motivation to them whatsoever. Even on the creative side of it, there's been no reason for them to exist, and the characters just kind of do what they do because that's what they do. Here, that's not the case. He has a very clear path of, I need to do this, I need to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, because this, and this. It is a fantastic movie. This is what a 21st century action movie should be. It's a movie with great build. Unlike so many action movies at the moment where there's an action sequence every 3 minutes, here we actually have time to understand the character and the world, this really fascinating, very well-built world that he lives in. He is an ex-criminal. The criminal world within this exists on the fringes of normal society, and even though it's a mini world that's run by criminals, it has logic to it. It is almost the old-fashioned 1920s gangster movie where behind the facade of the hotel there's this intricate criminal network where they can buy guns, they can get their wounds seen to, they can stay the night, it's a safe house, and all this whilst they're using gold coins as currency. They're so far off the map, they have their own currency. The action sequences, which are the bread and butter of this movie, are fantastic. You can tell this movie is directed by stuntmen because it's filmed in a way where you can appreciate the action, you can appreciate the work and the effort that's gone into it. It's not the silly shaky cam action that we've seen recently, where every single shot looks as though it's been filmed by a man sat on a jelly. We are allowed to see every single punch and every single whack for that full brutality in a way that sometimes when you see people get hit, you go, ouch! I think this movie is fantastic. It's truly a standout movie. The action is great. Keanu Reeves is fantastic. The directing, fantastic. The story, as silly as it may be to say it out loud, is fascinating. It is great to have a movie which actually feels as though it wanted to exist. The previous movies that we've had, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, exists because the money said so. Hot Tub Time Machine 2 was supposed to be released last December, but was released now out of contractual obligation. This is a movie which has been released because the people making it wanted to make it, which is great. I highly recommend anybody who can see this to go and see it, to see this movie in your droves, because the more people who see this movie, the more people that see movies like this, the more likely that we're going to get great movies, and the less likely we are to see the likes of Paul Blart Mall Cop 17 or Hot Tub Time Machine 21, as we'll no doubt get to before too long. I am almost speechless for this movie. I can say nothing more about this movie other than to say it is fantastic. Without a single shadow of doubt, my movie of the week, probably one of my movies of the month, and could be one of my favourite movies this year. Utterly, utterly fantastic. The only negatives that I would say towards this movie is that it's hard to actually say a negative, but I'd say that there's something missing from the soundtrack for me. It's all the soundtrack itself is fine. I think Marilyn Manson's on the soundtrack, but they reuse that song about 3 times through it, where you could have other songs. There's bits in it where they've got tracks that are very dancey, some tracks that are very synth wave. I like just the instrumental bits over than the Marilyn Manson bit. Whilst that song works very well in its first time round, by the third time round you're there like, well, we could have something a little bit different here, maybe just a different song, but still very great movie, apart from the soundtrack being it's great. And not even then, the soundtrack isn't horrible, it's just a bit more diversity would have been greatly wanted. I understand now, when a few months ago when we had the Oscars, there were some people that were surprised that this didn't get an Oscar. I'm not saying that it's Oscar best movie material, but at least the choreography for the action sequences should have got something. I mean, for crying out loud, this is an action movie directed by stuntmen that doesn't feel stupid. It's an action movie where the stunts actually feel as though there's some heft to them. Even if there may be a bit of CGI here and there, it still feels as though people are getting thumped around the head with steel bars and stuff.